the world of the internet.
It can get a bit much sometimes.
I don't know.
Pretty much, yeah.
Welcome to
Move Over Mother Teresa.
What is my purpose? What am I gonna contribute to the world?
Interviews with creators who
Show the world
give
vulnerability and masculinity.
Encourage consciousness.
shit.
Can I swear?
This is Move Over Mother Teresa. I'm Mira Kumar, and I'm here to ask you how often you compare your creativity, your art, your work to pro wrestling. Prior to this interview, I did not, but afterwards, I think about that question every single day. In this episode, myself and my co-hosts, Fee McKenzie and Tom Cledwin, sit down with Elijah, who is an author, a DJ, he owns a record label, the list, it really does go on, and he's here to talk about how creatives can be successful. The 90% of creatives who can't go the traditional route and find success, how do they sustain their creativity and a career in what they love?
My name's Elijah, I'm a writer DJ from East London. Keep London loud. DJing comes from really like listening to pirate radio, being kind of fascinated with what was happening on the other side. Oh my God, this is so sick. And grime was the thing where I was like, this is for me. Do we want an ecosystem of more music lovers, more people with a tangible relationship with music, so DJing, or do we just want a one-way dynamic with a small group of people playing music to people with a passive relationship?
When and why did you start posting on social?
At the time, I was like thinking, okay, well, I need headspace. Like I just didn't feel like the internet was actually helping me. I deleted socials, I guess mid-2020, so I think it was July 2020, not too long after the George Floyd thing. So I was like, okay, I have nothing to contribute here. And I didn't realize that if you deleted socials for 30 days, it deletes your account. So I had to start from zero, which I think was kind of therapeutic in itself.
Were you big before, or?
On Twitter, I think I had like nearly like 15,000 followers or something, and then the same maybe on Instagram.
So it's quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, and then I had to start from scratch. But I think this is good.
It's kind of liberating, right?
Yeah.
Because you get to let go of all the, the dynamics that existed before.
Exactly. And I've always been just Elijah on the internet, so there isn't like a kind of overlap of my personal life and professional life in that way. So this thing of, say like if you saw me DJ in 2016, I'm not sure like you're necessarily interested in what I've got to say about anything in 2021. So I thought it was nice to actually have a kind of clean break.
Did you recognise that right away though? Because we'll get in. I'm so interested with like the clarity of thought when it comes to your creative thinking. Mm-hmm. So is you losing all your following and having to start from zero therapeutic? And did you realise that like right in the moment, or did you have a moment of, oh God, what's happened? Or did you immediately think, great, blank canvas, let's go?
Well, I had been offline for maybe like 9 months. So, and the following wasn't in my life. So I guess I wake up, I'm doing whatever I'm doing in my day to day. The following isn't following me around. So it didn't feel as dramatic. And we were in lockdown as well, still at that point. So it didn't feel like I'd actually lost something.
You were just at home baking banana bread, surely.
Exactly. I was sitting, reading and thinking and just trying to work out where everything's going to go next. At the time, people maybe that are my peer group, my age, I guess generation artist-wise, I think we were all kind of underprepared how much things would change coming out. There was this like kind of phrase that people kept on saying of getting back to normal. And I was like, well, normal is relative, my friends. I'm not sure how normal things are going to be post. And then there was just going to be this kind of, oh, now it feels like this is not the same era. We're communicating differently like through Reels and TikTok. Like TikTok itself being a different language, mechanism of communication, audience, generation, music, visual, everything. But I don't think any of us could have been prepared like how different it is. Like the world physically feels different in some places because of TikTok.
Yeah. What did those early posts look like? What were you saying? What was resonating with people? Or what did you just really feel, even if the audience wasn't there yet?
Yeah, so the first one is just this like circle with scene written in the middle and these arrows pushing out. And it was like, okay, I guess there's two ways of looking at it. It's like expansion of meaning of what a scene is in general. So it'd be like, say in my world, it was like grime and electronic music. Is the scene this fixed thing? Is it like, okay, grime is 140 BPM, you got to release it this way, do it in this way, perform here, agent, like just that rigidity? Or is it something that we can continuously kind of build on? And I think the kind of caption was, it's not an ecosystem if everyone is doing the same thing. It's an ecosystem if everyone is doing different ideas with the same principles and ethics. And that being what makes a scene, really. It's not as much defined in like maybe sound or aesthetic. It's just maybe principles, ethics, that kind of things that are not as easy to capture. And like when I just think of grime, the most interesting people in it maybe have completely different points of view. Even you think of Jamie and Skepta, two brothers, two completely different ways of doing things, pushing in different directions, but they can still work together. Like, and I think, okay, you have one independent, spirited, DIY, do-it-yourself person, and then you also have like someone that has the same spirit as that, but then makes like, I guess, commercial products, fashion, house music, this, that, like going full tilt on loads of things at the same time. And I think that a scene encompassing both of those things makes something interesting.
Hi, it's Mira, just a quick one. Can you send me a voice note letting me know who you want to donate your ad slot to for your episode?
Hey Mira, I'd like to donate my ad slot to HR Sports Academy. They do after school clubs for young people in Haringey, and they've been doing it for over 10 years. And on top of that, they do summer programs and half-term programs and kind of keeping kids active in the area. And I think it's one of those kind of jobs that people think about as disappearing, but HR Sports Academy, Michaela, the person that runs it, is doing it actively, and one of those people that I think in the moment you should support at a time. So yeah, HR Sports Academy.
What's interesting about your posts, and I want us to try a little exercise, is that you leave your posts up for, I guess they're to spark thought in your audience. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily explain them all the time, but it's here is an idea, a provocation, an experiment, just a thought. And then the audience can run with it in whichever way they interpret it. Something that you wrote down is, what can artists learn from pro wrestling?
Yes.
And the reason it's an experiment with you here at the table is because I can't figure it out. And I was thinking, okay, I'll share what my thoughts on this are. Maybe you guys can share what you think. I was thinking, okay, pro wrestling, you know, you have this artist persona, this wrestling persona, you have your very private life. So two worlds potentially that artists can learn from. You know, you keep your artist persona there, keep your private life private. That's very possible. Things can be manufactured and be kind of completely fabricated, and yet you can push your body to the limit, and that part of it can be real. So things can be not real and real at the same time, and the audience can still be invested in that world. You can develop this persona that people 20 years from now still associate you with because you are so deeply embedded in it, and it becomes part of who you are, part of your identity. Can you separate that out from who you are as an individual? Does that feed into who you are as an artist? I don't know if any of these are even close. So I would appreciate hearing what other people think, and then finally hearing maybe what you think.
Yeah, another point I thought was how pro wrestling is often, it's manufactured, right? But it very much lives in the real world and can reflect what's going on in the real world, even though it's like manufactured. And I think there's just an interesting dynamic around like what you put out there, what is real. I don't know, just an interesting kind of dynamic. Also, we love drama. And, sometimes it's about coming out and sharing something very kind of like dramatic or provocative or something, which is very much like, pro wrestling. I don't know if I've got something there. Elijah's like nodding
I guess
away.
there's no wrong answer, is there really? That's the point. I mean, this yellow square is, the question is like, what can artists learn from anything, right? It's like pro wrestling feels like maybe the stand-in. Yeah, like it's like the sort of Rick Rubin school of thought, which is like the creative way kind of starts with just actually your ability to have like total awareness. Like, how can anything inspire you in any way? So this is an amazing prompt, whatever you switch in and out, right? Whether it's pro wrestling or not. But if I would have to respond to the pro wrestling piece, yeah, it's that like, having just watched the Netflix series about pro wrestling, about WWE, just that like blurred line between like storytelling performance.
But how it also lives in the real world, and how isn't there a podcast out right now which is talking about how WWE helped the rise of Trump. The ideas was like formed in this like really kind of close knit, very loud voice community. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either a podcast or a show.
Okay, so what I've gathered is the message is artists can learn to be very careful before you accidentally contribute to the rise of a supervillain. Is that the answer?
Yeah, there's many. So like that's going to be book 3. I'm working on it at the moment, and it's kind of like a bit of a fun project for me to, I guess, explore. I've been writing that over the last 6 months now, really slowly. It's been kind of like a illuminating experience, just to like delving into like a lot of old artists or wrestler interviews and all this kind of stuff, and then doing like my own kind of personal research and talking to active athletes, wrestlers in the sport now. And I'm going to hopefully finish it in the next few months. It's going to be short. It's going to be like a 60-page book. It's just as a bit of fun.
As a creative prompt, kind of in line with your Yellow Squares book, or
yeah. So the original line was, I guess, pro wrestling operates in this line between fantasy and reality, and I think what's happened in the last decade with social media is that artists, musicians in particular, have been pushed down this angle of being like authentic as the highest kind of currency. Mm-hmm. And I think, well, we didn't really grow up knowing what was real and what wasn't. So why has authentic become the maximum
measure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've really struggled with that. So the artists, when people even crafting campaigns, they'd be like, show more, show how you made the song, what inspired this, what, like, answer every question possible. I'm like, why do we have to answer every question? Why can't we leave things to mystery? My friend sent me this Olivia Dean quote from a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she said something like, you can place yourself in what I'm saying rather than worrying about what I'm saying. Something along those lines. And I think that's a really interesting way of putting art out there in the world. Not, did she specifically go through this? Like, and making it about her. Like the songs are how it hits you. And I guess even in the experiment of me being a kind of artist, frontline artist now, I guess, doing work like this, is I have the boundaries of what I present or like and hide or transparent about and opaque about. And I think that's like an interesting kind of creative prompt for people. So I'll show this maximum transparency and then none on here. And I find that push and pull very interesting. And then, like you said, this thing of time is such it's like a forcing function for creativity on the good side and bad side. So you have, in WWE, you have weekly shows. So the people are getting older. Like, like any soap opera, like Phil Mitchell is getting older.
Yeah.
But in music, people can kind of be frozen. They're like performing the same song over and over again. There's this weird kind of like, especially with, I've noticed growing up with grime now, the people that are, let's say, like doing the same songs that they did 20 years ago, you're like, wow, like you're kind of cosplaying as your 18-year-old self. But people don't really see it that way. But wrestlers are doing exactly the same thing. Like John Cena wouldn't dress like that if he was just being John Cena. But it is John Cena. His name is actually John Cena. We don't really know anything about him apart from what he's presented in this limited box. It's weird. It's like this, you know what, like more than anything, if you just strip it back, it's what for artists and for, I guess, everyone participating would be more fun if you're just telling everyone what it is, or like involving everyone in the kind of creative mystery and asking questions rather than just telling. And I saw there was like a storyline earlier on in the year where something as simple as a podcast constructed a story with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and then Dwayne Johnson responded to it on his Instagram, and then that was bled into the storyline on television. And something like that, I don't think has ever happened in music, where, let's say, the Joe Budden podcast wouldn't set up a constructed story for an artist to respond to in a song, and then that thing be like part of a topic of conversation. Everyone discusses this idea of a rollout And actually the rollout becomes more like a stripping down of something rather than a building up.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like building the world together and it being a two-way conversation.
Exactly.
I think we're increasingly, at least I in the echo chamber of my algorithm, I see a lot of conversation about films, for example, about music, and it's what does the artist mean? What does the ending mean? What did the director mean by this line? Like what happens? Was it reality? Did the spinning top stop spinning? And a lot of the directors say the same thing, which is it is what you interpret it to be. Like I have my theories, but the mystery is something that obviously as humans, I think we're kind of wired to solve. Like, well, what does it mean? I need clarity. I need to know what everything is. But
why do you think we're interested in that though? Because I agree. There's just more and more like Reddit threads now around whatever TV series you're watching or film or whatever. People really need to know. And there's so much like sleuthing that goes on around social. So if somebody does something on social, whether it be unfollow somebody or puts out something that looks cryptic, now you've got internet forums like that want to know every different side of that. Like what is it about us in human nature right now that makes us want that?
I think sleuthing communities in and of themselves are probably like attractive communities to be a part of, right? It's subculture to be attracted to. But I wonder as well, it's like we no longer live in a world where there is a lack of information for anything.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it stands to reason that it's just natural behavior to try and add information, try and work things out and contribute. I sort of dream of a world where, and Elijah, you sort of said this a few times already, but like actually people just recognize that they don't have anything to contribute to. I was at an event this weekend and they said, as they kind of opened the mic up to everyone, they said in a really lovely way, they said, please take some time to consider what you'd like to say and specifically think about whether what you want to say is going to be an improvement on silence.
Yeah.
And it really got people to think. Yeah, like...
Did anyone follow with a question?
Yeah, it was quite intimidating. I think a lot of people didn't say something they probably would have said otherwise. Yeah. But it was said in a way that was still kind of open enough.
Okay, one of the things I say like some of the time at the end of me doing the lectures is ask a question you think will be helpful to other people. And like that challenges people because a lot of people think of themselves, the thing that they want specifically answered, but you think of, well, what is the answer that I might have to answer 100 times individually? But if you ask it in a way that probably helpful to loads of people, you get something a bit more interesting. Because someone like usually be like, oh, how can I be a global pop star? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't heard of I'm not your guide.
On that, like I love how in your lectures and so on, you clearly are talking to the 99% of people who haven't made it, right?
Yeah.
And actually, if ever you're giving advice or like, nurturing people along your prompts or explaining your prompts or, just talking about your work, you have such a refreshing clarity of just acknowledging that actually for 99% of people, all of the stuff you're probably told by other people is not relevant. And so I just, again, like, I guess my question is, where does this ability you have to look sideways or to look adjacent to what is sort of obvious or conventional come from?
Yeah, I guess there's like anomaly results, anomaly thinking, and then everyone's okay, like there's a business of saying, okay, this is how it worked for Steve Jobs and Elon Musk or Kendrick Lamar and stuff. It's like, well, they are the outliers. They are not because they followed some sort of system. Like everything they did before they did it didn't work before they did it. And that is interesting in itself, and there's something to learn from that. But generally, for most people, we're kind of it's really tough because I've been in these.
You've stressed him out, Tom.
Right.
This is good tension.
Okay.
Something's good's coming.
Yeah. When you see the scale of like people that are trying to do the same thing, so if it's like, okay, just become a DJ, but become an artist, for example, you think, well, there are 10,000, 100,000, million people following the same advice. Does that work at scale? When everyone is trying to follow the method, it breaks. It doesn't actually work anymore. So all those things get competed away. So the reason why I don't give advice or I don't sell any course or like upsell any coaching or anything like that is because the prompts I'm giving is like for you to explore, okay, this thing that I could have never come up with myself, like your unique proposition on that. I can't pull that out of someone. I feel like that's something like, maybe like some particular coaches or teachers could do that, but that's not for me to do. I feel like something that is self-exploratory, you know what I mean? And here, I guess in the UK, we're so well resourced in terms of like maybe like arts funding and cultural funding and opportunity, at least in London, that there's probably like an over focus on traditional ways of breaking through. So again, think of every June, there's going to be, I don't know, 60,000 arts graduates every single year without fail. But then in terms of arts jobs, there might be like 100. So I'm trying to speak to the 59,900 rather than the 100. The 100 are cool. They've got it. And there's probably be another 100 of people that find another way to crack it. But the rest of, I consider myself part of that other 59,800 that was in that, what do I do kind of energy. But then I'm not in the pressure of, you know, whatever the rent is now, like £1,500 a month rent in Hackney, wherever it's going to be. And to be able to like step back and go, well, when the challenges that say like a young person has, a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, anyone, or really even 30-year-old trying to figure it out is completely different to what I did. Most people just don't acknowledge that. They make it out as if it is the same as like 2010 or 2014 or even 2019. And actually, it's nearly 2026. And it's a completely different universe.
I love what you're offering, but I also know that you take the same sort of approach yourself of doing things the different way. Like when we last spoke, you said, I'm writing 2 books. We said, okay. And you said, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Just checking. I'm writing 2 books. My friend told me I should actually do it one at a time, but it's the harder way to do it two at a time. So I'm doing it this way. Why?
Because I feel like I'm getting a different process, different result. Maybe I'm going to learn something about myself that even if it just pushes me to the limit, artistically or creatively, it's like, okay, well, I'd rather do that than, I guess, follow the same path, again, end up in the same place, having to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. That doesn't interest me as much. Or if, like, I guess I get both. If it goes well in the way that it's gone well for someone else, my way, then I get that. And then if it goes well in my way, then I get something that is just completely new too. And that's that push and pull. That's what I learned from maybe like DJing and working on the other side, is that there were specific opportunities that only worked for a particular kind of artist. And I was like, okay, even on my small level, I think, okay, that's this bit I want to sit in. I want to sit in like, you could be any cog. You know what I mean? So, okay, there's, say like an artist lineup of a festival, you can just slot in there. That's useful to a degree. But then there might be an opportunity that doesn't happen because Elijah can't do it. I think that's like a nice spot to sit in as an artist. I can't lie, man, like writing the 2 books is so far has been a disaster. I wouldn't recommend. But
what's the process you're following?
4 hours a day. That's it. Just no negotiation.
Same 4 hours every day?
I try.
Morning, afternoon?
Morning. So just get up and then just write the beginnings of things in my notes, or just type until I can't. And then at the end, like maybe at the end of the week, I can pull out things that I feel like are interesting or useful. And then the rest of the day where I'm doing other things, I'm just like reading, and I still tweet and kind of bounce ideas off in the world. I guess this one thing that is actually good is that not a lot of people use it anymore. So there's a really particular group of people that I'm sharing ideas with.
On Twitter, you mean?
Yeah, in a way that I wouldn't do on Instagram, because I feel like on Instagram I could kind of lose control pretty quickly and I waste more time. Whereas with Twitter, it's become like more of a notepad for me. But maybe I have every day so far, so this is from middle of June until the beginning of October, I've maybe produced 8 good lines a day. It's not a lot, but
so
hopefully it will improve.
We're getting kind of deep into the creative process here, but if that's been your process and you say it's been a disaster, how long are you willing to sit with that process and it being a disaster?
Bear in mind, you did do a post that said if it's not working or something, you should quit and then try something else.
Yeah. Well, I'm giving myself the foundations that are going to be sticky enough so I can build around. So maybe until the end of the year that I've got these kind of, I guess the way I've written both books are really similar, like this kind of overlapping ideas, but I want the reading of them and the way people process it, like lyrics, so they're as easy to remember as the squares were. And I've read a lot of books on like music and creativity in this way, and you get the overall point of it, and I feel like there's a style of writing that it's just harder to punch out the lines, and I just want to continue that theme, like it's like MCing rather than kind of continuous prose. You know what I mean? So hopefully when people get the books, say like the pro wrestling one, they can just be like, okay, chapter 1 is on authenticity, bam, 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 bam. This is kind of like where we fucked up. Chapter 2 is on, fantasy. This is all these things that we can explore. Chapter 3 is conversation, social media, like bam, 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 bam. Like, and it be easy to push back out there.
Do you want a dialogue with these people, or do you want them to close the app and make the thing?
It's a bit of both. Like I enjoy the kind of, especially when people like disagree. I just find it so interesting. Just if there's particular maybe like bits of writing that people are like just really just don't like, and I just think that's so interesting, just to cause that kind of response, and them also feel comfortable with coming direct and speaking about it, or coming out their house even to like challenge me in real life. I enjoy that, and I think it's good for society, especially in like these times where some things are so polarizing in general, that we have spaces and conversations that are like, okay, this is not gonna cause some sort of bigger issue. You know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, this is a minor, and I'm happy to engage with people if they're willing to, in good faith.
I do see a lot of your provocations as this opportunity to, not necessarily with you, but with yourself, have just clash a little bit, with what you think already, with your current practice, with how you're doing things. I don't know, it's just, it to me sparks that immediately, because some of the things you say, I'm like, I don't agree with that, but actually there's something there, and I need to reconcile what that is in my head and what that means for my creativity. And I think that's what makes a lot of what you say so special, and why it resonates with people so much, is because sometimes there is that knee-jerk reaction where you're like, oh no, what, okay, fine, and then you have to work through this process of feeling uncomfortable and then figuring it out and incorporating it and forcing yourself to think rather than just scroll and consume, which I think is a lot of social media right now, whereas yours is this reflective,
challenging space as well.
Exactly. It's like, and it's just art, it's not maths. It's like, there's not one answer. So in the grand scheme of things, when people have challenged some things and I go, oh yeah, that's not even what I was talking about, or yeah, I agree, like you're right in that specific scenario, yeah, you're right, I'm wrong.
It's interesting.
But what do you want people to, if they land on your page, or become a follower, what would you like them to take away? Like, is there a behaviour or a change of mind? What is it that you want them to take away?
Just a further interrogation of everything that they see in general. And I think people like use the term critical thinking, but it's not just thinking, it's like just questioning, like everything that they see. Like even the pro wrestling thing, they have this idea called kayfabe, like everything that you're seeing is constructed in front of you. So if you're on Instagram, like ask the question why that person is telling you that thing, and why they're showing you that bit of information, why they're telling you to come to this thing, why they're telling you to buy this course, why they're telling you to eat this thing, why they're telling you to join the wrong. What is the actual motivation, and stripping those things away, and like just taking that extra bit of maybe that second breath. You know what I mean? And just be like, oh, actually, that's kind of interesting. Or like this combination of ideas. Interesting. Okay. That's what I call it. The second breath. Like, skepticism. Healthy skepticism.
And do you think that, because, we see now more than ever that everybody's got a personal brand, everybody is offering services, everybody is like an entrepreneur. And I think from my perspective, there's so many people that are pushing themselves forward as like experts in whatever field. They can help you, you know, here's the solution, it's XYZ. So I kind of see your art and what you put out into the world as a kind of, you know, as a challenge to that as well. But I want to know, like, from your perspective, do you think, you know, because you've gone through so many scenes as well, and like, you know, different periods of your artistry, are we moving more like sheep in a way now, or like do you think we're in a kind of flow of like following these experts without as much interrogation?
When you peer into the glass screen, everyone is like that, but then when I look into my life, it's not like that. So I guess most people I know don't have a personal brand. They might have an Instagram, but they're not participating in that kind of thing. Whereas I guess the way we use it and for our work and what we do, that is why we're on there. And what do you mean? So like there's this kind of feeling sometimes when you're very knee deep in scenes and work that like this, everyone is doing something. And what I try to do even in my social media consumption or my media consumption in general is that there never be a feeling that everyone is doing something, because I'm following so many different things and different patterns that there actually isn't some overarching like, okay, everyone is talking about this thing or a particular issue or a particular way of communicating. Do you know what I mean? So if you follow, say, loads of DJs, you do start recognizing the patterns, the empty venue DJ content, that kind of thing, where they walk around in the venue and go, oh, like, buy a ticket for my show, that thing. Or if you follow, whatever, the run club type person or a health person, they'll be like, hey, shows them working out, doing something, then there's like the sponsor and then the link, or it'll be the supplement that they use to get ahead, whatever. Like, you know the patterns of those things. But in my day-to-day, you know, Monday to Sunday or 12 of the 24 hours, I don't really mix with people like that in general. You know what I mean? That's just very me looking into the screen. And even the people, I'm including myself in that, by the way. I don't talk to people like that in real life for the most part either. So it's a very internet kind of presentation. So the personal brand is just maybe a top 2% of your output as a person. So if you meet a wellness influencer, most of the time, I don't know, if you just had a coffee with them, that they wouldn't talk to you the same way they talk to Instagram. That's just good.
When you say that, you know, as the years have gone by, the landscape is completely different. So creativity has to evolve and people are doing different things because the different platforms demand it. You are, across these years, since 2021, presenting these provocations, these experiments. You probably have to grow as the landscape changes. And I'm curious, how do you do that? Do you have to be very aware of everything that's happening in the creative scene? Do you have to, you know, watch a few different people from each industry? How do you make sure that your provocations and your art and your prompts grow with what's actually happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of things, especially the last year, because I've been like high output. The last 6 months, I haven't really been putting out any new ideas on the internet. I've just been doing the things that people have asked me to do, and, you know, selling the book and doing the launches and stuff. And that kind of, I've tried to like remain reasonably disciplined in that sense, like not putting out stuff and just enjoying and taking in like everyone's videos and music and films and theatre and going to events myself and being an audience member for the last 6 months in a very like, okay, disciplined way. Like, I go out all the time. I'm doing stuff all the time, but not as, you know, someone that's producing the work and having things out there. But I guess I'm looking at things the opposite way. I'm like, what do I want to do? And then I'll make it fit around what's happening rather than what is happening and then trying to make something that fits what's happening.
Which I think is what a lot of people do. Is they think, well, what is, the second thing that you just said that I immediately forgot to
Yeah, you're building to the market rather than, I guess, making the market for what you want to do.
Exactly.
And again, I'm a bit further down the line, so I've got that privilege. I'm not in a rush. A harder thing as time goes on, there are things that you should do that maybe that don't instinctively talk to you. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But then there's things I'm like, okay, let me just try it. Let me do View from a Bridge. Like, why not? You know?
Which is great, by the way.
Oh, thank you. and not think too much about it. But then I should also just, at the same time, just randomly say no to things, because I also think that that's kind of interesting in itself. Just being like, no, I don't get it. Or that's maybe like for someone else, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't think about that too much, because again, that becomes another bit of work that I have to work out. That's just not at the top of mind for me. But I can just kind of randomly, even though deciding to do this, I could have just been like, no.
Yeah.
No particular reason, but then I think in good faith, I could just be like, oh yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. So it's not really strategy, it's more like do and just see what comes of it.
Like not every decision is like moving the needle that much. So it's not, I don't need to overthink this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe when you're starting out, or you're in some position where maybe you've got responsibilities, you're representing a company, or you've got like some sort of image to uphold to other people, then fine. But I don't have that. Like, I'm not maximizing shareholder value here.
One of your squares is time is the creative director, and it feels like the creative director for you has evolved, and you have more time now, and you're really taking advantage of kind of contemplation and things that is a privilege to have, really. And I imagine in the first half of your career, it wasn't something that you could afford to sort of live by, right? It was just actually really taking time to be intentional and think. What's your advice to people for whom time is not a privilege?
Well, it's still a filter. So even I guess the first half of my career, I was going full tilt, and then I was learning fast through doing things and failing, and you know what I mean, and trying loads of things all at once. And that was good for where I was at that time and what needed to be done for the company, for the people that I was working with, and so forth. But today, more time hasn't made my work any better. You know what I'm saying? And there is this kind of like utopian vision of like, oh, I could just like get all the time to work on my magnum opus. It's like, well, actually, it might be easier to do that with very little time, because that's what you really want to do. So, okay, I've got a day job. I've only got an hour every couple of days to work on this thing. And then that is the filter, so you don't do loads of other stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I see this more and more where some of the most interesting artists I follow have day jobs, they have families, but they produce work at a pace that makes sense for their lifestyle, and that is sustainable to them, because they're like, well, I only have one day a week to work on this, and I'm going to make it good. I don't want to waste any time doing things that are not interesting to me, and I'm not going to waste your time because I know you're busy too. And you get like very very high tilt work, like just very like, okay, I'm going to be here on Mondays, every Monday, because that's the only time I've got. I think this is like a good thing. And even the beginning of this year, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to be an artist, or I'm going to just work on this stuff full time for a year. And we're now in October, and I've been like reasonably busy through most of the time. I needed like a bit of this writing time to slow down and work on some other things. But in 2026 and beyond, I could easily like have another full-time situation and do all of the creative projects in the evenings or when I have spare time. So it's just like having these, it is nice actually having little bits of break, especially because the apps can be quite all-consuming if you have to do all the time. I try like not to recommend that for anyone, really. I think like that mix of some sort of full-time work or part-time work and this is like the sweet spot for most people.
What is a sort of a misconception, a common misconception you see about creatives or about the creative process?
Usually that some good things take time, and this idea of, okay, you know, like a classic album took 3 years to make, or this thing took 5 years to make, and that there's an element to that which is true, like the amount of like training and writing and reading and artist development, all that kind of stuff does take years. But it is years through like making and sharing, not making in some sort of closed box with no interface with the real world. And, you know, the best-selling albums all the time, when you look at the recording times of them, they're really small. They're like 2, 3, 4 weeks. They're not months, years, because they're capturing some sort of energy or some sort of like, okay, yeah, the best-selling album of all time is Thriller, and it's like over, I think it's like 3 months of recording time. Obviously, we know what took to get to that point, both from Quincy Jones's and Michael Jackson's pedigree and all of the work they got to that point, but actually the capturing of the lightning in the bottle was really small. And I think the criticism of my own work the Yellow Square work really is that if I was able to compress that a bit tighter, the work would actually just resonate better. Like some things just took longer than I wanted them to. The book should have come out in 2024, and I would have been able to capture a bit more of the, not just the heat of the project, but like how, I guess, close I wrote the words. Like some of those things I wrote in 2021, and if like you're trying to speak about it 4 years later, where was your head was at? You're getting a story about where my head was at.
So would your advice be then to like creatives, just be sharing the work that you're making, even if it's WIP, even if it's like in process?
Obviously, it depends on what you're working on, but I find that you learn a lot more from like, not feedback in terms of someone think it's good or bad. I'm not interested in that. It's in terms of like what is resonating and what is like connecting with people. It's not like people overrate people's opinions, I think, on things, because the easy say like feedback I could get from my work is like, oh, the drawing's not that good or it's not aligned properly. That's like, who cares? It's the ideas. Is there something in there that's connecting, or the things that are magnetizing people to your work? It might be something that you don't even notice yourself. So I'll see this with like designers or flyer designers and stuff. They'll be like, there's something about the way they do things that gets them where they need to go quicker than the actual, piece of work would have got them. So if they try to, I don't know, do a gallery show of their pictures, it just wouldn't have worked. But they've made some amazing piece of work. The people like you guys will be like, oh my God, this artist is amazing. Boom. Now we can platform you at a high level, and then the work can continue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My interpretation is like going with the moment, being in that specific time and trying things out, not being sort of confined to a particular process or time constraint.
I guess the longer like you don't show your work, the harder it is to show your work as well. That's what I find, even just from not really posting for months. You build up this thing where you feel like, oh, I need to post something that's big to justify posting.
To cut through.
Yeah. If you were just more consistent with it. Not like you got like nothing to, if you got nothing to post, then don't post anything. But yeah, I mean, if I hadn't just completely just stopped, then it would have been kind of easier just to keep going.
Who out there at the moment across pop culture through to any subculture you can think of, online, off, what creatives out there are you really looking up to at the moment, and why?
Loads. I mean, I go across the board. I always like pick up DJ AG. It's like an obvious person because what he does is very physical, like labor, like being out in the street, dealing with people. He does something that I feel like I can't do that. Like would not have the temperament, patience, kindness as a human to be able to do what he does. And I just respect it. Like doing that 4-hour broadcast 3 times a week, all the different kind of performance and chaos and all that kind of stuff that he has to go through. And just seeing it blow up is like awesome. But I would have rated it the same even if it didn't. You know, that's one person. There's an artist called Tigris Lee who kind of makes this kind of weird hardware experiments. So like she made her own DJ controller. She's made these kind of trainers that like smoke pours out of them. Like all kinds of like really cool mix between art and tech. In terms of like music journalism, there's Derek G from Sydney who again he has this interesting ecosystem of kind of just doing his own radio shows for his kind of private members group on Patreon, but then he has a series where he's interviewing artists talking about music, which is such a rare thing these days. They're talking about music, musicians talking about music. What a concept.
He's also got that like the way of talking. I almost think he could be talking about anything and I would just be like, you have my ears. Exactly,
but he's sticking with music and leading with that, and he goes into again sound systems and headphones and classical, and it's quite across the board. I find that super interesting. Then just other like people that just I guess pop up when I see their work. So there's like another like kind of 3D digital artist called Olivia Emma, and every time she posts something I think it's just good. Like she posted something from the outside kind of digital art space. Music, I went to Jim Legacy's show last week at Earth in Hackney. He's a kind of rapper, singer, producer, character, and yeah, it's loads, it's endless. Like that's one of the things is that I feel like I opened the app and then there's like endless bits of it, like inspiration to a point where I have to be kind of filtering back to be like, okay, well, you can be
be
constantly
strict.
entertained. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, you know, when I'm writing, like I read so much that I write stuff and then I'm like, I have to Google it just to make sure that it's not something that I've taken on from somewhere else. And that's one of the things that from podcasts that maybe you retain a small bit of it, but it might be like a line. And then I'm like, oh, maybe that appears in some bit of writing. So I have to like search. I'm like, where did I get this idea
Plagiarism.
from? Yeah, it's real.
If you were starting from scratch again now, you take a break, your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever, it all disappears. Thinking like the anomaly that you kind of are, where would you focus your attention? Where would your creativity take you that is different from the masses?
I'll try and be super local, like what I've done before. I think part of the energy has been like so dispersed and it doesn't live in a particular place. It lives on the internet because it's like I've gone everywhere that invited me in the world, and a lot of the DJing and music stuff was like everywhere. But if I was trying to start again, I'd be like very like, okay, time and place in the city, regular, and that being the focus rather than being something that is like bookable, and bring it to, you know, whatever, Belgium or so. It's like, not that I'd rather just be at home, but it's like there's something about going to a particular place regularly, the energy of something being quite focused, and I guess the commitment on both sides for you in your area, and the people that you're dealing with. Whereas I think, especially in my management work, it was more like transactional. It's not a bad thing, obviously.
I think for anyone listening who is in the creative industries or aspires to, or just expresses themselves in whatever way, so that includes everybody, the way you have such clear intentions, yet at the same time don't seem to be interested in sort of right or wrong answers. It's all sort of a kick-off point for something else, right? Like I love how your focus is not on what to think, but how to think. And I love that, you know, your work, your prompts, your lectures is all about fueling that. But again, to pair that sort of openness with such strong intentionality is like really, really unique. I think a lot of people, you know, it can be so overwhelming, I think, to explore like creative projects, and it's not often you come across people or someone who's got such a kind of clear idea of how they do things, yet with so many questions along the way remaining unanswered.
Thank you. It's taken a long time to get.
Yeah,
that's something that is 15 years of like being on the internet all the time.
Not bad for a 25-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's actually mad. When I do meet young people now, I'm like, okay, the amount of information that you're exposed to, if you have like the ability, the filtering ability and technical ability, and like maybe the luck of living in a city, then you're able to jump so far ahead of where we were at the same age. And I find that super interesting. When I started, I guess I didn't have any people say, oh, like their dream is to do this. I was like, I didn't have anything like that. Not because I don't think about bigger things. It's just like I came in, I was interested in music and grime and the things that were on my doorstep. I didn't have like a dream to play at Glastonbury or something, or to be on Radio 1, that wasn't my motivation or drive or anything like that. It was just more like internal and trying stuff out and experiments. And this kind of emergent internet culture that I found interesting. Whereas today, people, I guess, that are very precise about what they want out of this thing. There's going to be a few people that just get it. They're like, I want to do that, and they've got some sort of pathway that I didn't really think about. And today, I still try not to give myself these steps, and hopefully, occasionally produces something interesting. Yeah.
Occasionally.
No, but seriously, even in the book, it's like, you know, I don't know, 1,000 squares down to 100.
Yeah.
My litmus test for this project is if there's like maybe 3 or 4 things that kind of are still circulating at the end of the decade, then I feel like, okay, that's a good piece of work. So like when you're in it, it's like you don't know if it's actually good. Whereas there's certain books and certain ideas and certain ways of doing that stick around the ecosystem longer than the artist or longer than the person speaking about it that did it can. And hopefully, if it get to the end of 2029, but okay, the only thing that survives is one of the squares is like, oh, whatever, close that made the thing, or if you love music, you should learn how to DJ, or what can artists learn from processing? Like these things, if that's still a question that people ask, then I think it's worth doing.
I want to end you at a Leyton Orient game recently. Within the last couple of months, you had you sort of took over the pitch side advertising, little scrolling digital thing. I think this is a 3-word answer, but can you just tell us how you did that?
Just asked.
Love it.
And just because I thought it'd be funny. That's a good enough reason.
Thank you, Elijah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We always sort of end our shows as a way to try and say thank you for coming. So Mira and I work on a project called Drop Dead Generous, co-producing the show with Fee and her company Creative Ally. At Drop Dead Generous, we're giving $1,500 grants to people around the world, awesome. Just to pay it forward through an act of kindness. So to take the grant money and do something kind, transform into something, so you can't just pass the cash on, and support someone you care about in a way only you could. So we'd love to follow up after this and, being honest, call you a grantee. But yeah, we just mostly want to say thank you for coming here. Thank you for sharing like you have.
It's kind of quite surreal being in person with you. You're not somebody that shows everything online, you know, so what you get, you kind of really do hang on to. So like being, you know, seeing you in the flesh and speaking in such, you know, in long form like this is great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I almost forgot. If you have listened or watched this song, first of all, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Second of all, I would love if you would share this episode with your community. We put a lot of hard work into making it, and I, for one, would love to keep my job, but also continue to make the show. So the more people who listen and watch, the more likely it is that we get to keep making it, the more people we reach and hopefully help, and the more creators we get to platform. So thank you so much. Please do share it, and I'll see you next week.